What's up guys, this is a review of the RHA T20Is, and first before I do this is a repost because on the original video I screwed up. I wanted to say the F word there because that's kind of what it was. I said this. An entire dedicated driver for just the lower frequencies and you can... And as it turns out, that was completely wrong. Instead of it being a dual driver and having two drivers, one for the low notes, one for the high note, the truth of the matter is that it's a dual coil driver, or even more specifically, a dual voice coil driver. So I want to make that correction. Some of the ideas were predicated off of there being two drivers. Now, the same ideas regarding how everything sounds to me are still the same, but that little fact was a little bit inappropriate and wrong. So I want to correct that, and I actually want to quote RHA's website of exactly what it is so that there's no more issues, and then I'm going to re-review them with the amended information and get it all over with. So it's dual coil technology that features two independent voice coils, each responsible for reproducing part of the frequency range. So now that that is cleared up, let's get into the full review and let's start off with the build. And man, it is some good build. I mean, these things are made of solid metal and like quality materials. Now the weight is a bit of an issue. I'll get to that later, but for now, let's just focus on the build. It's a metal housing that has a driver that has the dual voice coils in it. Now it has a really nice high quality rubber cable. The cable does have an inline remote on mine because mine are the T20Is. There is a T20 without the I, which I believe stands for inline remote. And it doesn't come with the inline remote. Then we go all the way down to the 3.5 millimeter connector, which is again made in a metal housing, and that thing is solid. It's got like this spring release, tension release kind of arm thing for the cable, and it works really, really well. I've had these for 2 years. Nothing on these has broken whatsoever. The only thing that's kind of degraded over time has been around the ears, that the part that goes right here on that cable, because it's like a little spring tension arm thing that goes around your ear too. The housing for that cable is kind of kinking a little bit. It's not that big of a deal. It hasn't broken. I don't think it will break anytime soon, but it has kinked a little bit. Something you might want to note. Not that big of a deal again, but there it is. So these things are built like really, really well. I mean, these are some of the best built headphones that I've ever personally used, or in-ear headphones at least. Another thing to note though is that they are kind of advertised as like an Apple product. They're sold in an Apple store and you can buy them on Amazon, but they are an iOS device, but they don't come with a lightning connector. So you still need that little adapter if you are going to use these on the iPhone. Now the inline remote does work with play, pause, repeat, or not repeat, reverse, and Siri, and volume up, volume down. And an important thing to note is that all those options do work on Android as well, except for the Siri option, of course. Now, these are a bit pricey, and due to that price, some of the amenities that it comes with are definitely welcome, like a somewhat solid carrying case. It's not the highest quality carrying case I've ever seen, but it's definitely not bad. And again, with, you know, taking it traveling and working out with it and carrying it around and opening and closing and taking out the headphones, it's lasted 2 years and it hasn't had any degradation. Now, inside that carrying case, you'll find a couple different things. You'll find these different size silicone tips, as well as the same size but two sets of foam tips. Now there's only a few different sizes of these silicone tips, but each size has two pairs, so if you lose something or one breaks for whatever reason, then you have a replacement. An interesting note though is that the original ones that came on with the headphones fit my ears perfectly, so I've been using those, and they haven't degraded at all for 2 years. So I feel like the only reason why you would ever have to replace one is either 5-10 years down the line, or if you lose one or something like that. The other thing that's in the carrying case is these adjustment, like tuning filters is what they're calling. The copper one is for the treble and the black one is for the bass, and then the pair that comes on it is a silver color and it's called the reference pair. And when I eventually get around to talking about sound, I'll go over kind of what those do. Now I do want to state though that they're not a gimmick. They actually do change the sound, but more on that later. So the copper treble pair has no foam in it. The reference pair has a little bit of foam in that little twist on thing. And then the black pair has even more foam than the reference pair. And you unscrew and screw these onto the earbud itself, and it changes kind of the sound qualities and the sound signature. Again, more on that in a second, but I just want to give you a general overview. And to wrap up the build, I mean, RHA is supremely confident in their build. Most in-ear monitors or headphones come with a 2-year warranty. These actually come with a standard 3-year warranty, and it covers everything, except for loss, theft, you know, crushing it under a car or something like that, because that's what it'd probably take to crush these things. I've actually stepped on these things before and there was no damage whatsoever. Okay, now let's go on to the big question. How does it sound? These things sound really, really good. Now, they're fun. They are just made for fun. They are not a reference or a monitoring headphone by any means whatsoever. They're completely and utterly V-shaped. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are a V-shaped, fun, lot of bass. A heavy, 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 heavy emphasis on bass, although it's clean. It's clean bass, it's detailed. The mids and the highs, they've built this so that they maintain their integrity very well. And everything has a very high level of clarity. And I was really impressed because I thought that these were going to be just kind of not really a gimmick headphone, but I thought they were just going to sound like really bass heavy cans. And there is an emphasis on bass for sure. There's no doubt. But the mids and the highs, they sound like somebody worked on them to make them sound good. They don't sound like they were an afterthought by any means, like you would find on like a Skull Candy headphone or a Razer headphone, where it's like, okay, you got a lot of bass, sure, it's boomy, it's gross, it's thick, but you don't really care about highs or lows, or you don't really care about highs or mids. These aren't like that. There's a lot of bass, sure, but it's clean, it's not boomy, it's not thick, it's not muddy, it's just textured. And texture is something that both the mids and the highs maintain throughout the rest of the headphone. Now, it's again, it's highly colored, and I have a problem with the reference tuning filter, but I'll get to that in a second. I guess I will cover the filters now and how each one sounds different. So the treble filter. So the treble filter seems to subtract the mids and the mid bass and kind of recesses it. Now the sub bass is still present, and the highs pop up a little bit more because there's not that little bit of foam quelling them. And instead of a V shape, it actually becomes more of like a U shape, where it's like a big dip in the middle. I don't really recommend them. They're my least favorite option of the tuning filters. But definitely when you get the headphones, try them out a little bit, see if you like them. Now, the bass filter, it adds bass, it adds sub bass, it adds mid bass. The mids, unlike with the treble filter, seem to maintain their integrity pretty well. It just kind of quells the upper end. It kind of takes them away from like a more crystalline sound and makes them sound a little bit more crunchy. Not totally. There's still detail there. You can still tell they're still enjoyable. But you can really start to see the even more emphasis on bass, and you know, this option, the bass is even starting to get a little bit boomy in this. It's not really having that really detailed and clear feeling that I get when I listen to them on the reference filter. So I don't recommend the bass option either, but it doesn't sound horrible. And if you are somebody who just loves bass, the bass option might be for you. So the reference filter, and like I said before, I have a little bit of issue with the naming of this, because even with the reference filter and with any of these filters actually, this is not a reference sound. It's not a monitoring sound, it's not an analytical sound, it's not analytical by any means. It's strictly just a fun pair of headphones, very colored, but that's what you get these for. So what do you get with the reference filter? Well, because of the areas that are naturally emphasized by these headphones, deep vocals and instruments and orchestras and any sort of electronic music just are phenomenal on this headphone. Now, high vocals are still enjoyable. They are definitely not a unpleasant headphone at all. But everything has a texture, and the richness of all the instruments and all the vocals definitely adds to everything. But these headphones definitely enjoy a rich original sound. If the original recording has richness and texture to it, these headphones play it phenomenally. And then the reference filter has the best mix of highs, mids, and lows of the bunch, and they are my preferred filter and the one that I leave on there all the time. I don't even bother putting the other ones on there now because I already know that I like the reference filter the best. Now, there are genres that these sound really, really good on it and hit all the notes correctly, but I want to stray away from that because every genre on this headphone sound really, really good, especially if you're approaching it from that fun perspective. Now, kind of like almost all in-ear monitors or headphones that I've tried, soundstage and imaging is kind of a weak spot because I don't know if it's a physical limitation of the driver actually being like on your ear, or if it's something to do with some other factors that I'm unaware of. It doesn't compare to speakers or to over-ear headphones, unfortunately. That's not really a bad thing about these. It's more of a bad thing about in-ear monitors and headphones in general. The imaging is dead center, but it's inside. It doesn't feel kind of outside. It doesn't feel like in front of you. It definitely feels like inside your head. So if you're not really into that, and you really like soundstage, you might want to stay away from these. I have heard in-ear headphones that sound better, although I couldn't name them because I don't know the names because I'm not really an in-ear headphone type of guy. So there are in-ear headphones that do it better, but not substantially. You're going to get much better results with over-ear headphones. Okay, so who are these for? I'll split this up into two ways. Average listeners, these are a phenomenal pair of headphones. I mean, they sound better than Beats, they sound better than Bose, they sound better than Apple AirPods, than Apple EarPods. Pretty much everything you're going to find on like the mass market, these are going to sound better. They're a really, really good pair of headphones, and if you're just an average guy, not really an audiophile, you're gonna absolutely love these. I mean, these have a really, really good sound. Now, for my more advanced listeners or the audiophiles, like I said, they're not an analytical pair of headphones. And if you're purpose buying them to have a fun pair of like workout headphones, which is what I use them for, or just everyday, you know, they isolate sound really well. So if you want to take them traveling or something like that, and you want them on a plane, and you aren't looking to analyze music or really get into the sound quality of everything and nitpick everything, then these are going to be a great option, especially if you are like me, where you like a little bit of kick in the bass. You like that little bit extra that some of these headphones do. So if you're looking for something a bit more colored and you're not looking for the flattest pair of headphones out there, then even for an audiophile, I think these are a great addition. I mean, I know I've emphasized the fact that they emphasize bass a lot, but they sound really good. I mean, they are very clear. They have a lot of detail in them. And, you know, even if I approach it from an analytical perspective, I'm not completely disappointed. I think they're a great option. I think exactly at how much they cost is a good price point for how good these sound, how good the build quality is, and that amazing 3-year warranty. And then some afterthoughts is like the carrying case, although it's nice because of how the earbud sits in there, because you kind of just have to like twirl it up and stick in there. Because the actual tip sticks out so far, it's a really tight fit in that carrying case. So you might want to look at an aftermarket carrying case that might fit it a little bit better, have a little bit more wiggle room to kind of move around, and I feel like I'm crushing them every time I put them there. I know they're not going to break because they're made out of like solid like cast iron or cast steel, but it's just something kind of worth paying attention to. And then they do kind of fit over the ear. So if you want to look at like how to fit in your monitors, I will try and find a video and link it in the description down below of how to fit them. If not, here's a picture of how they go in your ear. Some people, because the quality of the cable and the actual in-ear earbud kind of being, you know, metal, they do weigh a little bit. And some people complain about comfort. Now, any headphone that you're going to be talking about, you're going to find people that's ears it works on and ears that it doesn't work on. So if you fit the it doesn't work on category, I'm sorry. There's not a whole lot I can do about that, but for my ears, it fits them perfectly. It never comes out, anything like that. But the fit was one of the main complaints about this headphone, although it was very few and far between. Almost nobody was complaining about the sound quality or anything like that. So I think that will wrap it up for today's video. If you want to see more reviews or you want to send me something to review, please check out the links in the description down below. If you have any questions or if I screwed up on something on this video too, definitely let me know in the comments so I can redo it for a third time. And I guess I will see you guys later. So, peace.